All right. Give everybody a couple minutes here, and I think for the most part, everyone has joined us. So I just wanted to welcome everybody again today. Thank you for joining us for Thirsty Thursday. Today it's very exciting. We have not only Devon, my colleague here at Site Seeker, but we also have Justin Heminger from Ohio Craft Brewers Association. So thank you very much, Justin, for joining us today. I'm gonna let these guys take it away, but first I just want to let everybody know that this is recorded. So in the event that you want to watch this later, pass it along to somebody, or know of somebody that couldn't make it, we will have a recording for you. And we encourage you guys to ask questions along the way, and I will pass those along to Devon and Justin. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Devon.
Awesome. Thank you, Melinda. Thank you, everybody who's joining us here today. I think I saw we have some that are returning and also some people that are with us for the first time. So thanks to everybody. I hope everyone's doing well and healthy. And a big thanks here to Justin for joining me today. I had the pleasure of meeting Justin earlier this year at the Ohio Craft Brewers Conference before kind of all this madness started. So I'm glad we were able to get that in. And thanks a lot for being able to chat for a bit with me today.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks for coming to Ohio in February. It's not the ideal climate. It's not exactly a tropical paradise in Ohio when it's snowy and cold. But you braved it. You made it. We're happy to have had you.
It was one of my more fun days when I was building out my plan for that trip, and I had to go to my bosses and said I need to go 48 hours early so I can visit 8 breweries before the show. And trust me, I need to do it. So it worked. So no, had a great time there and learned a lot myself, which is why I definitely wanted to reach out and leverage some of your insights to kind of help people out with some of the ideas, thoughts, and things that we've seen, and to kind of segue that into what we wanted to talk about a little bit here today. And for those who have been able to join us for a previous Thirsty Thursday that we've had, we've tried to kind of continue along this theme of we recognize breweries in this time are kind of falling into one of two areas, and that's where they can do business today, whether it's to go with food, growlers, cans, bottles, that they have that availability, and then those who maybe they can't, maybe they don't have food, or maybe they can only do growler fills, or they don't have as much of an opportunity. But whichever side they're really falling into, it is important to stay active in a marketing lane and just communicate with their customers, because there will be a point when this kind of current reality ends, and they want to be in a position where, when they do open their doors, people are going to start coming back in, or as we put with this title, they leverage these empty bar stools and let that be fuel right now to engage. And so, before we kind of get into these 5 points we kind of pulled here, just as like an initial on what you've seen in Ohio, and you've definitely communicated with a lot of people, are you seeing a lot of people, getting their word out and communicating and really just trying to be vocal? Are you seeing a good effort of that?
Yeah, I mean, we have about 240 brewery members here in Ohio, and we pretty closely monitor what everybody's doing on social media. We'll get into specifics on that a little bit later, but the bulk of our breweries have been pretty active, at least as active as they were before this whole crisis started. The people who haven't really been or weren't super active before generally tend to stay on that track. But if leaning into social media was like kind of core to your brand, they're definitely doing it as much or more than they were before.
Yeah, No, and that's a perfect lead in right into these points here. And so the one that I'm probably going to continuously go after is, and it's always going to be number one, is going to be keep your customers up to date. It really, the most important thing right now is, just as, confusing of a time, maybe not as confusing as it was a few weeks ago of like, what should we do, and being more reactive than proactive, but it is still navigating these waters as a brewery. Customers are kind of in that same place. They're losing their go-to happy hour spot. They have to adjust what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, let alone a night-to-night basis. And so it's really important to kind of help them along and hold their hand in understanding what you are doing or can do. I've used the example before, but what I try and do locally is each weekend make a trip to one or two, or a couple different places to pick up some growlers to hold me as long as it can into the next week. But all I can really use right now is Google, Facebook, and a website. And sometimes I'll see a post on Facebook that'll have some of the information, but not, the weekends, and maybe one's not updated. And you don't want to run the risk of having inconsistent information. And so that's why, we always kind of lead with that, like, keep people up to date, let them know, what's your current hours, your revised hours, your new hours. And even if it is something like a Google My Business, you can do them as temporary hours, so they can, just as long as this is the way you're operating, and then when things can get back to normal, you can transition into that. But it just really making sure you're letting people know how you're operating now, whether it's what products are available or services are available, or if it's no contact and curbside only versus pickup or delivery, or where those are falling. It is important to just make sure that people know.
Yeah, and I mean, we're seeing a lot of our breweries putting that information out on social media. We actually, as a guild representing all of Ohio's breweries, and specifically the 240 members, we've compiled a list of what every single one of our member breweries is doing in regards to carry out, delivery, curbside pickup, home shipping. We have a lot of options in Ohio that maybe breweries in other states don't have. So we do want to, we want to keep on top of what everybody's able to offer and how you can get it. So we kind of made a like a central database on our website that was literally me and our executive director going through everybody's social media and like filling in a spreadsheet and putting that and making a Google Doc out of that that we constantly update. And we've been putting that out there, but we only know what the breweries are putting out on social media. So there are a couple breweries around the state that we just don't have information because they haven't put anything out, and it might be indicative that they're not offering anything right now. They might be temporarily closed, but we just don't have that information. That said, probably 95% of the breweries that are members have been keeping updated info.
Yeah, and that's awesome. That's awesome that you're doing that, and that's available.
But a lot of other states' guilds are too. Sorry.
Yeah, no, and it's great when when there are those kind of rallying teams. You're doing so much for your members, and also for people not just in Ohio, but that are close enough that they can visit, and make one of those trips and kind of see it. And that's really awesome. And it's really helpful. But like you said, you really want to make sure that if you're utilizing information that's out there, then we need to make sure we get that information out there. And a part of that plays into what we kind of have here as our second point, which is it's good to put that information for those who can visit, but you don't want to alienate those who might not be able to right now, but are still fans, or who are still regulars when they can be, and those kind of things. So what can you do now to not lose them, or not kind of forget about them? And that's where it goes, be interactive. And that's to say, I love the places that I go because they recognize me, and we've got inside jokes, or whatever it may be, that I've kind of created a relationship there, and I'm missing that. You know what I mean? Like I sit here and I don't mind it, but I honestly took this trumpet out this morning so I could have something else to do, and so I miss having conversations. You know what I mean? And so there's ways, to still engage with people. You see a lot of live streams through Facebook or other tools where it's like, hey, bring your questions, and I'll kind of sit here, and it's like I'm obviously long distance, but you and I are having a conversation, and it's nice. It's a break, and it kind of brings me back, a little bit, and that's what people are looking for. And I've said a lot, and I said it 6 months ago, and we'll see if I say it 6 months from now, but that I've always been a believer that it was quality over quantity, especially when it came to leveraging social media. But right now, I'm suspending that. I'm not going to tell you not to go after quantity because you need it. But what I would say is quality quantity. You know what I mean? But especially in the term of organic posts, with so much content being out there, there is a lot of people, putting a lot of information out there. So you're going to want to also join in on that. But an important part of it is to be interactive. Create a situation where people want to ask questions, answer questions, see a tour, have a beer with someone just a few miles apart. You know what I mean? And so it's a really important thing, to recognize you're missing them, but they're missing you too. So there's a way to bridge that.
Yeah, one of the best implementations of that kind of interactive thing that I've seen at the Ohio level, there's a brewery in Youngstown called Noble Creature Cask House. They're relatively small brewery in an old church in Youngstown, and what they did is they were doing beer school events before before all this stuff happened. That was like one of their like monthly or every other month events that they would put on. Just kind of walk people through a certain style or a certain ingredient or whatever. They decided that they weren't going to let coronavirus stop them from doing that. So, for I think it was like $16, you get a mixed 4-pack of lagers, and they were going to do a lager school. So you buy your 4-pack. They give you a link to, or they give you an invitation to a private Facebook group so that they can stream in a teleconference just for that virtual beer school. And it's a great program. It's a way to, it's not only a way to connect and stay true to your brand, and the things that you're known for, but in that particular circumstance, they also were able to monetize it, which is helpful when you're crushed for cash flow.
Yeah, no, and that's an awesome example, and that's one of those things. Like I said, we kind of communicate as a team internally, and we'll share posts that we see and offerings people are doing, and please, I'm trying to fill my weekend with group tastings and tours and things like that, because that's how, like, to the example, I'd usually want to. So if I can still do that, I don't mind doing it from my house, because it's better than just watching TV, or something along that line. And you kind of said it, and I do think it actually plays really well into this third point we have here with what tools are available. And sometimes it's just what tools or almost sub tools within something you're already using, but there's a lot of things that you can use, that really kind of help you do something different than you might be doing now. So in that example you just gave, even if it's a private Facebook page or group or even message, that you do a video series through, that you can, when someone signs up, they get added into it, and now they're part of that, and you can do that right there inside of Facebook. Another one I've seen is someone who's doing unlisted YouTube videos, and you would sign up, same thing like you said, it was monetized, and I think it's every other day. It's a part of a series they put together. They have an email that goes out with a private, a link to a private YouTube video, and you're a part of it. And that's, again, something that's just built into a everyday YouTube account that you can have. Some of the other ones that, obviously one of the biggest ones that's been utilized a lot, has been Zoom. But what we always kind of say that's a cool tool you can do with Zoom is if you were hosting a trivia night. Like if you're known for your trivia, there's no reason you need to stop it, because inside of a tool like Zoom, you can split people into groups. And so you can have the main room where it's like, hey, even if here's the 10 questions, get your team together. You're in 5 different houses, and then we'll split for 20 minutes for you to work through the answers. I was joking with you the other day, people are probably going to cheat, but well, that's fine, or make them subjective questions. It doesn't matter, but just anything where people are like, the 3rd Thursday of the month, I always went to trivia at this one place and I miss it. Well, there's no reason that you can't continue it just in this setting. And then when it comes to something like doing posts on Facebook, like I said, there's no reason to not have quality quantity, but there's tools like Canva that we recommend. If it's got built-in templates where you can put just a little stylizing and have a color scheme and really do that to leverage for social media posts, or a tool like Buffer that you can schedule out your posts on different platforms. So if you're like, you know what, I'm gonna plan out what I want to talk about on Facebook and Instagram, I'll take care of it in one place. There is tools that can really help you, so you can get a lot of that information out, but you don't have to constantly have it as a cloud hanging over you. You can plan it ahead of time, address it in a sitting, and then kind of go through the response settings. So have you seen people that are using other tools or other ways of communicating in more of an adaptive setting now than they might have been doing earlier this year?
Yeah, I mean, you see, everyone has to kind of pivot what they were doing. It's encompassing all parts of the brewery business and many other industries. Everybody just kind of has to take stock of what they're doing and decide what works and what doesn't in the new environment. I've always kind of been of the opinion that you don't necessarily have to do everything. You don't have to be on every social media channel. Just do the ones you're good at. That's and a lot of the channels have cross-posting tools that I absolutely despise, because nothing ever renders right, nothing ever looks the way you want it to. If you're using Instagram to populate your Twitter and Facebook feeds, like you're losing out on a lot of the functions of those other channels, just because Instagram is not a call to action channel. I don't know how many Facebook posts I've seen in the last couple of weeks say, click the link in my bio to get to this. It's like, I don't know, that doesn't mean anything to me right now. That's a thing that I've always kind of railed on, even prior to all this, is just make sure that the content you're putting up makes sense to people. Because I mean, if you have a social media manager, that's great, who's taking care of everything. If you don't, and you're relying on, you don't have time, you're a business owner, you're a brewer, you don't have the time to go through and manage all these things. Understandable. There are tools out there that can help you with that, not just some of the built-ins, like the ones that you mentioned. I don't know if you saw earlier this week, YouTube actually launched a video builder tool to make like very, very simple 6, 15, 30-second ads or videos that you can use to populate your social media. Literally, I don't know how to. I'm not a video editor. That's not my forte. But if I have access to a photo library, and they have or some short videos that I've shot from events that I've done, or pretty videos of a sparkling beer glass, that I can incorporate into something that's visually pleasing. I mean, it's free. It's out there. I mean, it's something you can take advantage of.
Yeah, no, and all of that really kind of runs back into the other point of it's that quality. You know what I mean? Like the example you gave, if you're linking them and it's got information that's doesn't work on one platform, but it's because it came from the other platform, that's quality, or that's quantity over quality. But if you're going into tools that, if you're using something like YouTube and they've got, templates built within that, and you can use things you've got, now you've got the quality, you know what I mean? And so that's a great example. And I think a part of that rollout and these other programs and one of the things, and even what we've kind of seen is of these things you're looking at, the companies recognize the situation, and we're seeing, whether it's with e-commerce platform sites and things like that, where they're running trials just to kind of help businesses that need it in this time out. So it is something to look into and be like, there might be something I was interested in, but they're willing to work with you now because they understand it, and it gives you the opportunity to try it. So that's really, really helpful. And I also think that kind of ties here into this next point at number 4, which is to play into the situation. Like, everybody knows what's going on. I know why I can't go to a bar. Now, we've said, I work with some of my coworkers are bartenders, and they'll work for the to-go aspect, and they said they still now and then see people come in and sit at the bar and not understand why they can't buy a beer and drink it there. So maybe not everybody knows, but 99%, they understand. And so we've seen some people, to say, have some fun with it, rename or create a beer that's themed for it. I've seen, 6 foot, what was it, at least 6 feet lager, or home haircut IPA, things like that. And it's a part of the COVID-19 series, limited release, and it's something where I'm like, I want a can regardless of the taste, because I want to put it on my desk right here, and be like, oh yeah, I had that during this. Or even if it's not something as, new creation as that, we've seen and we've talked about in weeks previous, people who are doing, beer and Netflix pairings. And so it's just like, we know people are home, we know they're watching Netflix, so we're going to recommend what you want to have with, season 7 of Parks and Rec or something, that you have access to. But it's, utilizing an otherwise unfortunate time, but, creating something that's fun out of it that people can, communicate and kind of be a part of.
Yeah, and we our industry is really gifted at coming up with product names that kind of tie into things. We also tend to have some issues with people who take things too far, and it's important to be mindful. Like, while you can have fun with this whole thing, to an extent, but people are actually suffering under this whole thing. I mean, it's important to just kind of keep that in mind and not go too far down that rabbit hole of, hey, I'm, we're all frustrated, but just keep in mind why people enjoy this industry and why people enjoy craft beer. It's about community. It's about connecting with people. It's about collaborating, cooperating with each other, and like, we're all just trying to get through this. That's bottom line. That's where we are.
No, absolutely, and it really is. It's recognizing what is, what is too much. But if you can generate something with those who are home, you know what I mean, and they'll, it kind of gives them a break from their norm in the day to day. But I do think, and you gave a perfect example there, that breweries in this industry is creative, and it does have so much personality, and every individual place kind of showcases its personality, that it kind of goes into this last part, which is, what is it that your customer misses most about you? And that's one of the things that I love the most, is that every time I walk into a different place, I know that, while the description of beer I might be having is similar, the beer is not, but the experience is not, because the personality of that place will show through. And that was the purpose, and that's the purpose of a brewery. And that's what people are missing. So it is fun and enjoyable to continue to do trivia and engage in social media. But, if I'm missing a key element of what, made a brewery or their experience or their atmosphere great, utilize that, whatever it might have been, use that, because that's what people are missing. So if that's what your theme or your story or, your approach has to be in social, then absolutely, keep that in mind as you go through it, because that's what people are looking for, that experience that they're missing out on.
Yeah, I mean, if your brewery is known for, having live music, find a way to stream some of the artists who would, normally perform at your brewery. They're hurting too. I mean, the live music industry is dead at the moment. Like people who rely on, playing at bars, restaurants, breweries, they need income as much as anybody else does. If you can give them a channel to, do a solo performance from their living room and, put a Chiron on the screen with their Venmo link, that people can help support them. It looks great for you, and it's good for them too. You're keeping your brand in mind, and continuing to connect yourself to, in this case, live music, while you're still supporting your community, which is, that's a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a great idea, and that's one of those things where if it was, a game night or a music night or whatever it is, look through the tools and what it might be to continue that, because it's a good look. People will appreciate it, but again, it goes back to those who are sitting at home and are, getting, fever of sorts will enjoy just kind of slipping back to what they were doing before a little bit. With that, in looking at time, I guess I'd say, Melinda, if you're there, did we have any questions that came in?
No, we don't have questions that came in unless people want to submit them right now, but all that information was great information, and I will, on the email that goes out, we will list tools that we mentioned earlier in the webinar here so that you guys can look into them a little bit further. So we will definitely include those names and links of the tools mentioned.
Awesome. So I guess with that, before we wrap up, Justin, just to you, thanks again so much for taking some time, having a long distance beer. I look forward to when I can get back to Ohio and have a beer with you. Is there anything maybe within these points or that falls outside of it you think is good to keep in mind to anyone who might be on?
I think, just kind of going back to point one, we're all in fluid situations right now. Things are going to change. You may have decided a week ago that you could be open Monday through Sunday, and it's not realistic anymore. Just keep everybody up to date. The people who want to support you need to have that information. If they don't have that information, they can't support you. Any way that you can make it easier for them to continue to support you, keep your cash flow open. I'm drinking a beer that I drove an hour and a half to get because I saw how they did their drive-through service. It was literally because of those photos. Like, I can stay in my car. I don't have to get into any potentially hazardous interactions with anybody. That's a selling point. Just connect how your business works now to the people who want to support it.
Yeah, no, that's huge. That's a great example. It's been great having you on. These were great insights. And so, Melinda, I guess if there's nothing just in those few seconds, I think that thank you for everybody who joined us today, and we look forward to, we're planning to do this again next week, and hopefully it can work, having a half hour and a couple beers with us into your schedule.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.